Not every TV show is a winner. For every beloved, long-lasting cartoon franchise is a single-season oddity with a bizarre or sort of offensive gimmick that was cancelled before it ever had a chance to make an impression on viewers. On the bright side, thanks to these shows, we can appreciate the cartoons we love even more, knowing how much worse things could have been, right? I hope that's how it works, because otherwise I want all the time I spent watching these shows back. Hi, I'm Brendan with channel Frederator, and today we're talking about 9 cartoons you forgot, and for good reason. Let's get started. Number 1. Butt Ugly Martians. This is a show about 3 Martians sent to conquer Earth who instead learn to enjoy the finer aspects of life amongst humans, like fast food and hoverboarding, which totally exist by the time Martians decide to invade Earth. Anyway, this could be a fun idea if it weren't for pretty much everything else about the show getting in the way. Its off-putting title, for one, is little more than an excuse to say the word butt a lot, which unfortunately is a recurring theme in the show because it was made by 5-year-olds. Every time the Martians suit up for a big fight, they activate BKM. Can you guess what the B stands for? Yes, sadly, it stands for butt. Even more weird is that they had to abbreviate butt-kicking mode into 3 letters, as if using the full phrase in the show would be saying the word butt like a little too much. Not a good problem to have. The title, though, is accurate, for a reason that its creators likely didn't intend. The show aired back in 2001, which is also the year Shrek was released, so we know CGI could look good back then. But apparently, without a DreamWorks-sized budget, they were left with, this. 2001 was also the year that the massively successful Jimmy Neutron film was released in theaters, eventually spawning a CGI cartoon done right. Not surprisingly, Butt Ugly Martians was cancelled the same year it premiered, probably for being, well, do I have to say it? Butt ugly. Number 2. The Ripping Friends. Even before 2001, which was the year The Ripping Friends was released, superheroes have been a hugely popular story element. Made by Ren and Stimpy creator John Kricfalusi, The Ripping Friends is a satire of big, masculine superheroes, which you'd think would be a smart and topical idea for a cartoon show. However, this show is anything but smart. Gross-out humor is the name of the game in The Ripping Friends, and while the animation is well executed, that only really makes the grossness pop more. And there are no breaks given. The main 4 characters who make up the titular superhero team are made to look grotesque at every given opportunity. Whether straining to flex their muscles or exaggeratedly chewing food, these characters are pretty much always unpleasant to look at. On top of that, their supposedly satirical personas are more often than not just purely unlikable. Furthermore, the show's side characters seem designed with the express purpose of just being disgusting caricatures of people, without really much more to say, other than the fact that, you know, people can be gross sometimes, I guess. The show aired for just 13 episodes on Fox Kids before it was canceled in 2002, a year after it premiered. It was one of just a few non-anime shows airing on Fox Kids, which premiered episodes of Digimon and Metabots in the same Saturday morning blocks. Turns out the show's gross-out humor failed to catch on with kids who were hooked on the new adventures of cute digital monsters. Number 3. Super Duper Sumos. Super Duper Sumos follows 3 sumo wrestlers who fight crime, and in what seems to be a trend for some of these more forgettable shows of its era, say the word butt a lot. In this case, it's because the weapon of choice of the 3 sumo wrestler protagonists is their gargantuan butts. Why did so many cartoon creators used to think humor began and ended with the word butt? Great, I mean, now I'm saying it a lot too. This show is pretty much built on the idea that there's something inherently funny about sumo wrestlers, and it went crazy from there. They also have a master who is little more than a stereotypical Asian mystic, which just adds to the sense that its creators used very basic knowledge of a foreign culture to poke fun at it. Ah, cultural sensitivity. And for some reason, one of the sumos also is a surfer dude, and the source of his powers is called Fat, like spelled the PH way, which stands for peace, honor, and truth. Guess they wanted him to, like, seem cool? Super Duper Sumos was on the air during the same time period that shows like Yu-Gi-Oh! Were huge in the tween and preteen zeitgeist. So Nickelodeon may have thought a show inspired by Japanese culture would be a hit. The show ultimately lasted for 2 seasons before Nickelodeon caught on to the fact that it perhaps wasn't the best take on Japanese culture, or, you know, humor in general. Number 4, Father of the Pride. If you don't remember Father of the Pride, that's because it only ran for a brief 12 episodes in 2004. Believe it or not, this computer animated series followed a white lion voiced by John Goodman, who works for Siegfried and Roy, like the actual Siegfried and Roy, who appeared in the show for some reason that escapes me. It's formatted like a family sitcom and was intended for an adult audience, but it was pretty much watched by no one, kid or adult. Father of the Pride was created by DreamWorks, and one episode centers around Donkey from Shrek, who's also a celebrity in the world of the show. They even got Eddie Murphy to reprise the role. Other characters are voiced by Carl Reiner, Danny DeVito, and more A-list stars of the time. With such a solid cast, it's a testament to the show's awfulness that it was canceled canceled so quickly. It was probably in part because of, in what again is a seemingly unfortunate trend, a healthy dose of racial insensitivity. An Asian panda character, Hispanic gophers named Chimmy and Chonga, and an Indian elephant named Chutney aren't exactly incorporated into the show with grace and sensitivity. And the rest of the show's humor was written with the same inattention to detail. Beyond that, its more innocuous moments are just plain boring. The show is hugely expensive, with a team of over 200 animators and a budget of $2 million per episode, and its ratings simply couldn't keep up. Number 5. Mega Babies. We get it. Babies can do gross things. The creators of Mega Babies, which aired on the short-lived Fox Family Channel, really wanted to drive this point home. Few shows can match the pure grotesqueness of Mega Babies. This is another show about superheroes, but, like, they're babies, and their superpowers usually involve, bodily excretions? I'll leave it at that and spare you the details. Unlike the babies in the similarly bad Baby Geniuses films, these babies are anything but genius, and more just like babies that can do really crazy, exaggerated things sometimes. They cry a lot, too. The show spares no expense at making moments like these look and sound as obnoxious as possible. Mega Babies feels like a case of network executives deciding that what kids want is gross-out humor, and just stopping at that. The babies all live in an orphanage and constantly torment their caretaker because, again, somebody at the network probably thought, kids like seeing kids be mean to adults. While some of these shows are just plain forgettable, if you forgot about Mega Babies, you're probably trying to repress some really repulsive images from the show. If that's the case, then please forgive me for bringing these memories back. This show only aired for 13 episodes. Thank the heavens. Number 6, Almost Naked Animals. Almost Naked Animals is another example of a show that feels like corporate bigwigs trying to make something for the kids and failing miserably. It's right there in the premise. It's a show about animals in underwear. Why? Well, the show's set in a beachside resort, so maybe the animals want to keep cool? I don't know. They don't explain it in the series, and it's probably not worth thinking too hard about. Rather than focus on creative stories or well-written dialogue, its creators seem to have decided that funny faces and silly voices constitute comedy. While there's nothing wrong with Almost Naked Animals, there's not a whole lot that's right with it. If animals in underwear don't sound funny to you, then you definitely won't find the show funny. It really has nothing else to offer. And to be clear, not only are the animals half naked, but they've shaved off all their fur. You can just see the stubble, like they shaved sometime in the recent but like not immediate past. Why? Again, honestly not worth thinking too hard about. There's no real rhyme or reason. Somehow this show ran for 3 seasons on Disney Channel before it was unceremoniously canceled in 2013. Number 7, Alan Gregory. When Jonah Hill announced that he was creating and starring in his own cartoon series about a pretentious 7-year-old, there was plenty of reason to believe that this show would succeed. It was, after all, the same year he appeared in Moneyball, for which he was nominated for an Oscar. Side note, did you know Jonah Hill was nominated for an Oscar? But as soon as Alan Gregory premiered, unfortunately, anyone with high expectations for the show was let down big time. The show's sense of humor is oftentimes offensive, or at the very least, just plain mean. Its titular character is so unlikable that in a better cartoon, he'd be a great villain. Unlike in shows where rudeness is successfully played for comedy, Alan Gregory just has no heart, and Alan's teachers, family, and classmates are pretty much just people that he uses to get whatever he wants. This is the type of kid you used to avoid in school. Why would you or anyone want to see a show about that? Only 7 episodes of Alan Gregory ever appeared on Fox before it was canceled due to low ratings. 2001, when the show aired, was the same year Fox began releasing episodes of Bob's Burgers. No wonder that the show with a lot of heart beat out the one with a stone cold heart. Number 8, New Kids on the Block. New Kids on the Block pretty much jump-started the boy band craze of the 90s. Their song, You Got It, The Right Stuff, was a huge success when it was released in 1988, and it was one of their many legendary hits worthy of being stuck in your head for days on end. What's far from legendary is the cartoon show named after and based on the pop group. New Kids on the Block, the TV show, began with the live-action interview segments of the group before diving into the adventures of their animated counterparts, who strangely were portrayed by separate voice actors. The show tried to make the struggles of these wildly successful teens relatable by giving them a chance to share their perspective on universal experiences, like going to school or hanging out with your friends on the beach. Yeah, mostly though, the show just wanted to make the boys seem really cool. The actual group pops up from time to time in the middle of the cartoon, which is jarring every time it happens, I promise you. But all the die-hard fans of New Kids on the Block have surely forgotten about this one, and should probably continue to do so. The show aired for just 1 season in 1990 before New Kids on the Block themselves moved on to greener pastures, being named by Forbes as America's highest-paid entertainers just 1 year later. By then, everybody had probably forgotten about this cartoon. Number 9, Chopsaki CHOOKS. Chopsaki what? Its name sounds pretty much as racially insensitive as the show itself. First off, some explanation. CHOOKS is an Australian slang term for chickens, which is what the show's main characters are. Specifically, they're chickens that do kung fu, which is what the show is about, shocking no one. The main 3 chickens in the show are characters of Japanese, Chinese, and blaxploitation action movie heroes, and most of the show takes place in a vaguely Asian-inspired world that does little and less to respect the cultures that inspired it. The villain, for example, is none other than a green fish thing named Dr. Wasabi, and one of the show's heroes is named Chucky Chan, complete with a faux Chinese accent. What could have been a passable, though generic, action show is basically ruined by an inexplicable focus on racial stereotypes, with no consideration given to transcending its racial overtones, which seems to be a trend that continues to this day. The show aired in 2008 for one 26-episode season. While the show was brought to Cartoon Network due to its success in Canada and Europe, it failed to catch on in a big way in the US. Hey, we did it! We remembered these cartoons you forgot for a good reason. I'm Brendan, and we apologize for making you relive all of them. Terminology aside, it's best that these cartoons stay forgotten outside of the confines of this video. Are there any other bad shows that you'd rather forget? Maybe you're a fan of one of these shows. Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to click the bell to become part of the notification squad. Make sure to check out the other videos and subscribe to Channel Frederator, your cartoon central on the internet.